But thanks for joining. Hopefully you've all heard of Men&Mice before. If you haven't, I'm just going to give you a brief level set of what we do. I'm Lauren Malhoit. I am the Director of Technical Content for Men&Mice. And I promise this will be like 99% live demo. I just have a couple slides to, again, just kind of tell you what we do. So if you are new to Men&Mice, we are a company that specializes in sustainable networking solutions focused on DNS, DHCP, and IPAM, or DDI if you prefer. And I do, it's much easier to say. Our Maestro product is really easily upgraded. It's all software. We're an overlay solution or abstraction solution that allows enterprise IT teams to enjoy, the security and the benefits of viewing and controlling their entire enterprise DDI architecture, all of their DDI solutions from one place, and be able to make changes, modifications, do migrations, all of that in a matter of minutes or seconds, as opposed to kind of the old lengthy ways of going to different places to manage your DNS, your DHCP separately. If you're in a multi-cloud environment or a multi-site environment, obviously a lot of that is done separately these days. So we allow you to do that from a centralized location. With multi-cloud being ubiquitous, and if you're joining and you're not in a multi-cloud situation, that's okay too. We can absolutely help you. But as you're doing anything, even if you're just talking about one site and you're using all Microsoft, you're still going to separate places to manage your DNS, your DHCP. You're probably using spreadsheets for your IPAM. So that's becoming unsustainable, right? An abstraction layer, an overlay solution is absolutely becoming necessary or is necessary today. So what we really do is we make it so that you can stop ripping and replacing solutions. We get rid of that cycle of technical debt. There are two sides to that coin, right? Either you're forced into decisions too early, or maybe it's the right decision today, but 1 to 5 years down the road, that solution isn't viable anymore. Or the other side of the coin, where you are perhaps in a bit of analysis paralysis, and you stay with your current solutions. But the longer you wait, those migrations become more risky, more costly, and it's just it's more difficult to do. So we like to help you with that. Again, kind of making deployment, visibility, manageability, and again, migrations more easily attained. So with that, I'm going to get started with the actual live demo. I'll pop this screen up at the end again, in case you want to get a hold of me to ask any questions and all of that good stuff. But with that, let me pop into our demo here. Let me go full screen so we don't get any distractions. And this is going to be very informal, so feel free to ask questions along the way. I think I've allowed everyone to talk. So just jump in, interrupt me, or we'll do questions at the end. With that, let's get started. So I'm going to start in our IPAM tab up here. You see it? What I'm showing here, the view that I'm portraying is a very flat view of all of our IP information. So we're listing networks from lowest to highest. We've got all of our IPv6, all of our IPv4 information in here. If you'd like to see it in a little bit more of an organized fashion, maybe seeing some site or boundary views and all of that, I just click that nested view button, and then we can go ahead and see it in a little bit more organized view. We can do things like expand and contract things, get rid of some of that white noise if we need to. And so, this is all very interesting, but you're probably wondering, if you are new to Maestro or new to a DDI solution, how did we get all this information in here to begin with? So we actually have a few ways, but the most commonly used way that we see new customers bringing information in is to use that import button. And we're pretty flexible on what you can actually import using probably what you already have with spreadsheets or CSV files. We can do it in a few different ways as well. So we can import networks. It's kind of the framework of your network schema. What does that look like? A lot of customers choose to do it this way because maybe they don't totally trust their IP information as it is. Maybe you're managing several different spreadsheets, or you have several teams managing several different spreadsheets. And so maybe you're not quite sure if all of that information is very up to date and valid. So what we'll do is we'll bring in the network information. Maestro will go out, find and validate IP addresses, and make sure that all of that information is solid. You can also just bring in all your information, bring in all those IP addresses. But don't worry, Maestro will still go through and validate everything, make sure everything's on the up and up. We can bring information in through devices. So if you're serving out a lot of DHCP scopes or DHCP addresses to devices using routers or some other device and access point, we can bring those in. And the last is Dhcp reservations. So let's say you have some DHCP servers maybe sitting in a DMZ somewhere, or just on a network that isn't accessible by Maestro. We can go ahead and manually bring that in via spreadsheets. And yeah, that is kind of a manual process, but if you wanted to set up a regular cadence, it's really easy to do through orchestration and automation, maybe using Ansible, Terraforms, PowerShell scripting, whatever you want to do. And we're a very API first solution. So everything you can do in our web UI, you can do in the APIs. And I'll give you a little glimpse of that in just a few minutes. Okay, so let's pretend that we just brought in all of this great information. We're kind of trusting it at face value at first. I am going to go ahead and expand this. If I want to, let's go ahead and click into one of these networks here. So here I can see all my IP addresses. I can scroll through. A lot of these are free. Let me see if I can find a better address range to get to here. Let's go ahead and click on this. This will show you a little bit more. So here we can see our assigned IP addresses. We can see free, we can see pending, we can see claimed. And at first, remember, we just pulled all of this information in, and we're going to take it at face value. It's probably sort of accurate, but Maestro will then go through, as I mentioned, and validate this information in several different ways. So first, using ping, if you allow ICMP on your network, using SNMP discovery, using a layer 3 discovery like LLDP. Those are the 3 ways that we are constantly running, making sure that your IP address database is just bulletproof here, right? And we'll get information like, is it alive or not IP? We will pull in information, identity information, like the BIOS name, MAC address. We'll start to fill in those gaps there. And we'll also tell you whether there are any IP conflicts. So maybe you have one IP that's being served out a couple times somehow, maybe through a static assignment, or someone tried to statically assign an IP even though it's part of a DHCP scope. So we'll tell you about that. We'll suggest remediation options. So that's just a really quick and easy thing to do to make sure that we are in fact using all these IPs the way that we think we are. On top of that, what we can also do is pull in some of these. Let me get rid of that filter. We can pull in custom information. So we have some information up here in the columns by default, but we can also pull in custom fields, any custom fields that you would like, that you're currently using maybe in your spreadsheets or that you would like to implement into your standardized processes. We can absolutely pull those in. And then again, you can choose whether to click or unclick and see these. Again, get rid of that white noise. You can rearrange, where they appear. If you want it more to the left because you don't want to bother scrolling, we can absolutely easily do those things. Any questions about IPAM so far? Okay, so if I were to then go ahead and create a network, I already have 10.0. 20. So let's say I'm going to create a new network 10.0.100. Through some inheritance, we know that this is going to be attached to an 80 site. Then here are the required fields that we need, or that your company deems it necessary to create this network and get all of the correct information. So we have some alphanumeric fields that we can just fill in. Of course, you can do pull downs for when you need a specific value, like for a site, for a region, etc. So we make it really easy to do this through the web UI. Again, everything's possible through orchestration and automation as well. And again, this leads to better standardized processes and practices. So you probably have, several people on your team, or maybe in larger teams requesting things. This makes it really standardized. And I always say, consistency leads to reliability. So I highly believe in those standardized practices. What's great about these custom fields that we're pulling in, everything is fully indexed, whether it's built in from Maestro from the beginning, or you decide to create some custom fields, again, it will be fully indexed. So I can do things like do a search for everything under VLAN 20. And this gives me, some great information. Now I know this 2.3.4.0 is in VLAN 20. I can see everything that applies. We're just using regex expressions there, so nothing too fancy, really easy to learn. You can also do some straightforward searches with that as well. We can do also just some global searches here. So if I want to, let's say I do a search on 2.3.4.0, of course that appears. And what's really cool is then we offer you some available actions. So you don't have to pop out and then find what you're looking for, pop back into a menu, and all of that good stuff. So again, we're just trying to simplify things, make things really easy for the network engineers, network admins, the folks that are really running this this UI here. So that's some great stuff that I just wanted to show you quickly. Going back to, let's say, the IP ranges, we'll get rid of my filter here. And if I go to, well, let's take a look at this left side menu here real quick. So I can see all of my networks here. The left side menu really gives me just some easy filtering is what's really happening. So if I want to see the IP range information, not necessarily the DHCP scope, I can get all of that information really quickly. I can also, take a look at DHCP scopes on the flip side of that. You'll notice we have a utilization field here. So I can quickly see any highly utilized networks right away. If they are crossing a threshold like 80%, for example, or any threshold that your company sets, then we will, of course, use alerting to let you know that this could be an issue. And you can be notified via SMS, via email, via syslog server, Splunk, what have you, any third-party ecosystem syslog type of thing we can help integrate with. So again, being very proactive, we know that we can help you find any problems that may occur or any problems that have occurred already. Containers are kind of just another way to organize this IP information. I do like favorites. Favorites are a place you go. Maybe you work in a certain network a lot. If I went back to all networks and chose something, I would just click the star here, and then it'll appear in my favorites. And I can easily then just pop in there and get to the project that I'm working on right now and want to get at quickly. Recently viewed, I like this because I'm a forgetful person. And so maybe I forget which network I wanted to show you in my demo. I can just go into recently viewed and see all of the networks that I like to pick on a lot. What I really love about this left panel are the recently created and recently modified views. So if you are having maybe a system outage and you're not quite sure what the problem is, it's really easy to come in here and quickly check if something was recently changed. And of course, we have history for all of this as well. So I can see if something was recently changed. I can see the exact time and date in which it was changed. I can see the type. I can see who changed it. And I think that's really important here. We'll talk about role-based access in just a moment, but you can see I've made a change. So possibly it's my fault if there's an outage. And then I can see the description. And of course, if I had made a comment about why I made this change or any other relevant information, then it would appear here as well. And then, of course, I already talked about highly utilized networks. Again, if you set a threshold, of course, we're very good about not overutilizing our networks at Men&Mice. But if you had made any, or if you had any highly utilized networks, they would appear here very quickly. And if you noticed as well, I am pulling in a bunch of information from my DNS, my DHCP. I'll show that a little bit more later, but that's just another way that we are checking to make sure that we're getting the proper information for everything. So if I pop into folders then, I just want to show this really quickly. This is just a really great way to organize your information. So we have two different types of folders. One, just a general folder structure, which you can create any way you like. If you want to do it by projects, you could do it by user, all sorts of ways you can figure out how to organize this. We have it by projects right now. So I have a DMZ project running, an IPv6 project running, and I would manually then put networks, put scopes, all of that into these folders so that I can easily get to them. Again, lots of ways to slice and dice this data and just figure out how exactly I want to organize it to make it easier for my team or for myself. We also have smart folders. Smart folders they're new in 10.1, but they're really taking the place of a saved filter. So smart folders are actually dynamic in nature. I'm going to go ahead and show the /24 with 50% utilization. So all it is another regex expression, right? It's another filter that I can just easily get to. So again, these are just /24s with over 50% utilization. You can make it anything you want. If you want to show public IPs from cloud providers, if you want to show internal or external IPs, again, you can separate those easily. The smart folders are, of course, dynamic. So anytime a network is over 50% utilization or scope is over 50% utilization, it'll pop in there. And then it'll pop back out when we've kind of remediated or load balanced a little bit, and it'll pop back out of that smart folder. These can all be nested. The folders, both smart folders and folders, can be nested so that you'd have several projects underneath all of these. We do organize as well by AD sites. So you can bring in additional Active Directory forests. You just put in your credentials. You can set as read-only if you like. So where I see this as a great use case is perhaps I do a lot of mergers and acquisitions. And maybe I'm ready to bring in a forest from an acquired company, but I'm not quite ready to make changes, or maybe their network teams aren't quite ready for us to make changes. So I can set that really quickly as read-only, and then I can do a lot of contextual planning. I can see it against the rest of my forest, the rest of the information that I'm gathering, and do some quick planning there, or at least some contextualized planning there. If I expand this, I can see all of my sites, and I am just going to pick on, well, let's dive into Boston here. So I can actually view the networks that are in Boston. So these are just all my Boston networks. And again, lots of ways to slice and dice, but you'll notice up here, the regex expression was actually just automatically put into that filter area. So that makes it really easy. What I love about this is then I can actually go ahead, create a smart folder, and it's already entered in there. And yeah, I mean, you could copy and paste, or you could memorize how to do it all. But again, we're just trying to make things easy on people so that, there's less of that menial labor involved and less room for customer or human error, I should say. Let's show a little bit of the server configuration here, server management. So I clicked on admin. We'll still talk about DHCP. I'll dive into DNS in just a minute. But you can see I have, a few different kinds of DHCP servers in here. You name it, we can usually cover it, whether you're using ISC, KEA, Microsoft, of course, Cisco. We'll go ahead and pick on Microsoft for right now. And I can see I have 2 Microsoft servers that are serving out DHCP addresses. If I go ahead, I can click on this ellipsis here, or a hot dog menu if you prefer, and I can click on View Scopes. Oh, and of course, there's nothing in there. But if I were to pick a good one, there would be something in there. Usually I pick France and it disappeared from me. Let's see if we have anything in. We'll give it one more try. No. Okay. Well, the scopes would appear if we had some scopes in those servers, but I won't belabor that point too much. Any questions on DHCP, on that server information? Again, so we attached those servers to Maestro. We were able to pull in all of that information, also with DHCP, with DNS. And again, we're doing the work of not only gathering that DNS and DHCP information in and of itself, but using it also to validate the IP information that we have. So again, it's just a bulletproof database. So we can make better decisions. We can really make sure that we're doing the right things when we get into our IPAM environments. Any questions on DHCP, on IPAM? Okay, let's move on to DNS then. So it looks very similar to our IPAM tab. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. Again, let's make it easy. So we see all of our zones here. I'm classifying information from the DNS servers again on whether it's a primary or secondary or master slave, whether it's a caching or forwarding zone. We're classifying all of that information appropriately and automatically. If I were to, I do have Active Directory integration. I can really easily see everything that's coming from a Microsoft DNS server. By the way, Microsoft DNS and DHCP, we actually don't require an agent on those servers. We have a really tight integration with Microsoft. So, the agent is not required. We do have some agents that we use for other types of servers. Sometimes you just have to have an agent, right? But when you don't need one, that's great too. You don't have to worry about patching and upgrading and making sure everything is working well there. So when I click on AD integrated, again, I see my Active Directory zones here, DNS zones. I'll pick on one. When I selected or double clicked on that mmdemo.net, it actually went and made sure I am getting all of the most current information from that zone right now. So that double click actually performed that task very quickly. We do have a regular default polling period of 15 minutes there. However, you can fine tune that however you like, make it more or less frequent, whatever makes sense for your organization. So we get some great information from that. We can see all the different types of records, anything under the sun that you would normally pick for a DNS record type, we can do that. If I were to create a new record, let me get back in there. Sorry about that. If I were to create a new record, obviously I would give it a name, choose record type, choose a TTL that's appropriate. And then let's say I start typing in my 10.0.20 network. Maybe I know what IP address I want to use, but maybe I don't have it off the top of my head, or maybe I've forgotten it. I can go ahead and choose the range that I wanted to choose. And what it did there is it picked the next available IP address. Now, I really love this feature because I've worked with a lot of software that uses this kind of pop-up architecture. And I inevitably end up having to close that out, get back into the IPAM environment, find the next available IP. And by the time I'm back in here, probably another admin has chosen that IP already. So this makes sure that I am choosing something that's free, something that another admin isn't trying to use for something else. And it's actually held that IP now for the next 10 minutes until I make a decision. So no one else can come in and take it away from me. What is also very cool, just in this creating a DNS record task, is that I now have two options. And I have two options because I'm logged in as an administrator. So I can create it now. And the create now is great, if you're very solid, you just want to make the change and make it happen right this second. And again, because I'm an admin, I can select that. Now, if you have someone from another team, maybe it's a server admin who doesn't have the complete DDI context or plan in mind, or maybe it's a junior admin, you can go in and the only option they would have would be to add two requests. What this does is it would add the request then to our capability called workflow. So you see I have quite a few things here in my DNS workflow already. Let's just pick on this top one here. If I were to select it, I'm coming in as an approver now, so I have those administrative permissions. I come in as an approver, and I can either reject or approve this particular request. You can put in why, some commentary on why maybe you rejected it or approved it. The great thing about this is we'll get also the recorded history. So we'll have audit trails, who requested it, who approved it, why, when, what, where. And then once I've, let's say, approved it, I can choose again, whether do I want to do that right now, or do I want to add it to our scheduled queue? And I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. The scheduled queue is great for change management windows. So now I can put several requests, one or more, several requests into my scheduled queue, schedule them all for the next change management window at, Saturday at 3 a.m. Those will all happen automatically then. So I don't need an admin to stay up or get up at 3 a.m. and run these through. What we can do then, if there is an issue, obviously we can check the recently modified, the recently created instances and see maybe what the problem is. We can also work through the APIs to do a quick rollback. There's a lot of options to roll back if there is an issue. And again, we can go through and view that history and, have those audit logs available for the entire request operation. Now, the flip side of this coin is that, okay, great, we've created this workflow, it's automated. What we need to be able to do all of that then is the role-based access control that I mentioned. So if I go back into my admin tab, click on configuration, you'll see I have a whole access management tab here over on the left. We are pulling in users and groups either from Active Directory, or you can create them through Maestro, either way. We're creating a way, though, to have all of my users, all of my groups, whether they're in the public cloud, whether it's coming from Azure Active Directory or my on-premises Microsoft Active Directory, I can put those all into the same group and manage it all from one place. We are now a pure role-based access control model as well as of 10.1. We always used role-based access control, but now you can no longer assign permissions to a user or group. Permissions must be assigned to roles, and then users and groups are assigned to those roles as well. We have some built-in roles here. So some of the general roles you'll see are built in. We actually have some new ones as of 10.1 as well, the IPAM viewers, the DNS viewers. Again, if I just want to give read-only access to some folks, you can create your own general roles. General basically means that it's going to give you system-wide access to something. So system-wide access over everything, in kind of that administrator super user role, or maybe it's just or DHCP or DNS, kind of those broad sweeping roles that we might want to assign to folks on our network teams. We also have then specific roles. So the specific role is going to be a little bit more narrowed down, right? I can assign a specific role to DHCP scope, to a certain server, to a DNS zone. I often get asked, can we assign specific roles to like a specific DNS record, for example? We don't go that granular, and there's a reason why, because again, it becomes unsustainable. You'll hear us talk about this sustainable networking model. If I were to have dozens or hundreds or perhaps thousands of roles for specific records or a specific user, then people are going to start shortcutting things. It is just not a sustainable model. That's where workflow kind of shines as well. So I could give specific access to one DNS zone, and then that person can go in, a person with that role can go in and request a change to a DNS record, right? And so we're still locking it down, but we are not slowing down the process of getting a DNS record. And again, oftentimes these people are server admins. They're not network admins or DDI specialists. So we want to give them the flexibility to be able to request these things, the information that they might need. Hey, this is going to happen during this Saturday's change management window. So now everyone's happy, right? And we're working in less siloed teams. So that works out really well, I think, just in general. We're all kind of speaking the same language and not just communicating through Jira tickets, for example. And then we also have these legacy roles. So if you were a previous user of Maestro, we do pull in that information when people upgrade so that all of their access control still works as it should. But I thought I should mention that since they were right there. I also want to just point out, we actually have companies with hundreds. We have a company with 40,000 users actually on the Maestro platform. And that's only possible because of our role-based access control and also because of our APIs. So obviously, if we are inviting DevOps folks or inviting just developers to use Maestro to be able to do a DNS workflow request, for example. We need really robust APIs to be able to do this. I've already been talking for about a half hour or so I'm just going to quickly show you the REST API that we have here built in. So I just went to the URL and you can see everything is available that would be available in the web UI. We have a lot of companies using self-service portals, again, to kind of decrease time and increase consistency. We have Swagger built into the background. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Swagger, but basically it's kind of like Postman if you're more familiar with Postman. But I can go in and I can test all of these things. I can input values and then just go ahead and click try it out. And I'll either get an error or I'll get a return. And so it's just a really quick way. It's a neat way that's just built in before I go ahead and create these, huge recipes or workflows or whatever within Ansible, Chef, Terraform, through just custom scripting. I can just test it out real quick, make sure it's going to work, and it's all built in. So with that is actually the end of my spiel here. I will put back up the the Q&A information. If you have questions for me right now, that is fantastic. If you don't, feel free to reach out to me at any of these places. And with that, I'll pause for questions.
Hi, Lauren. Just a quick question for you. Does Maestro require any hardware appliances?
Yeah, thanks. So we don't actually. We use virtual appliances. You can get virtual appliances. Let's say if you're not running a DNS server or a DHCP server already, we can get you some of those general appliances, virtual appliances, to make things easier. But we are a complete software solution, so it makes it really easy to put things in the public cloud or anywhere on premises, even if you are just deploying for maybe a proof of concept real quick, we can go ahead and do that in about a half hour. So again, it's all software, and we're happy to help you with the deployment. So, just give us a call and we can help you out with that. We do have another question in the chat. Have you run into a lot of inconsistencies and discrepancies when you've deployed this for customers? So yeah, actually, it's really crazy just to see once we get it up and running, again, maybe in a half hour, an hour, just right away, things start popping up. IP addresses aren't being used the way we thought they were. Sometimes it's human error, but sometimes it's, like a runaway process on a DHCP server. We've seen that before, and it's just not renewing leases. And it's something that people just didn't notice right away. But, we found it right away using Maestro, and literally, thousands of IPs that we thought were being used. We were able to gain those back. And sometimes that can amount to a financial cost, right? What is the load on our servers, or are they public IPs that we can bring back in and not keep paying for. So there's a lot of great things that we can do just literally within the first hour or two of running Maestro, things we can find in your environment. Anything else? And I apologize again for my dog barking, but appreciate you sticking with me. Okay, well, again, we do have one more question. How different is the upgrade process from 9.3.9? So I'll be very honest with you. I just started in August, so I have not done that upgrade. I've only done 10.0 to 10.1, but I will get that information for you. Feel free to email me, or I can just reach out to you. I promise no risk or anything. If you do reach out to me, we'll just get you that answer. But yeah, I don't want to lie about it. From what I have heard from other customers that I've talked to, it's a real easy upgrade, and we haven't really seen any problems, and it takes just a few minutes. Again, because we are an overlay solution, because it's abstracted, we're not changing anything on your underlying DNS or DHCP services. So everything is going to run as it should, even if, and it wouldn't, but even if Maestro had a problem with the upgrade, everything underneath will still run as it should. So it's not going to cause any problems on your network. It just, until that upgrade is finished, you may not have access via Maestro or visibility via Maestro. But again, I'm sure everything always turns out 100%. Anything else? Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Again, feel free to reach out any way that you like to, any way that you're comfortable. I promise not to sick our sales folks on you right away or anything like that. But much appreciated for joining, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.